Welcome back to This McCrazy Wife. Sometimes I'm in the mood to try new recipes and spend lots of time in the kitchen, but sometimes I just want to get food on the table and feed my family. I seem to forget, though, that supper doesn't have to be complicated to be delicious, especially coming into a busy time of year. So this video is less of a how-to and more just a few ideas to help you get a meal on the table. Now, 3 of these are super easy. Then at the end, I'm going to throw in my favorite sourdough bread recipe. So keep watching, and I hope you enjoy. Now, the first easy idea is just open-faced roast beef sandwiches. My favorite way to cook roast beef is to use stew meat from Sam's Club. It's the best in my opinion, and there's no carving or shredding the meat at the end. It's already in small pieces and they just fall apart. Now, this takes just a few simple ingredients, better than bouillon beef base, which I dissolve in water, then Worcestershire sauce, or however you say it, brown gravy mix, and butter. It's so easy. I used 1 cup of the beef broth and then a healthy splash of the Worcestershire sauce, sliced up the butter and a good amount of brown gravy mix, and then added in some onion powder. And again, I'm not measuring any of this. I'm just adding in what I know that my family likes. I know that some people like to add in ranch seasoning. You could do that if you want kind of a Mississippi pot roast type of a thing. I'm not doing that. I was going for more of a savory. I also love this smokehouse salt and pepper blend from Kinder's. I've got it at Sam's Club, but now I can't find it. It is so delicious. If you find this, I highly recommend you pick it up. But we're just going to add all these in, and then we are going to put the lid on this and cook it on low for a good 8 hours or so until it is fall apart tender. Now, when I take the lid off and I give it a stir, you're going to see the gravy is pretty thin. So I did make up a cornstarch slurry, which is just a tablespoon or so of cornstarch, some cold water, and whisk it up. And then I'm just going to pour that in, and I'm going to give the gravy a whisk. It starts to thicken up quite quickly, and you have a delicious gravy with your stew meat, your roast. To make this dinner even easier, I did use Sam's Club's mashed potatoes. I've just put that all on 1 slice of bread, serve it with a veggie on the side. You cannot beat how easy it is. Now, next up is the easiest supper ever, and that is just breakfast for dinner. It is definitely a favorite in our house. On this particular night, I was making fried eggs on avocado toast, and I served it with some easy turkey sausage links. I like to pick these links up at our local salvage store. I get them super cheap, and pop them in the microwave, so easy. I also like the knock your sprouts off bread from Aldi. So this dinner is as simple as making toast, slicing up an avocado and mashing it up, frying some eggs however you like them. You could do scrambled if you preferred, whatever you want to do, and then just putting it all together. Just never underestimate the ease of making eggs or waffles or pancakes or any other meal you normally consider breakfast food for dinner. Because remember, at the end of the day, as long as your family had something good and nutritious to eat, you succeeded. Now, my kids don't like avocado, so they just went with the fried eggs and the turkey sausage and then a bakery-style muffin, which I have a video on how to make those beautiful chocolate chip muffins, by the way. Highly recommend watching that one. Anyways, just take your toast, put on the avocado, add your fried eggs, a good sprinkle of pepper, and I think anybody would be excited about this easy dinner. Okay, final dinner is this chicken corn chowder. Now, I'm going to put a link for this recipe in the description box. This comes together really quickly with nothing to prep. You're just tossing it all in the slow cooker. I used 3 chicken breasts. Mine are frozen. I get those at Sam's Club as well. Then I'm using this easy jarred garlic, however much you like, and then 2 cans of creamed corn. Then a bag of frozen corn, a can of black beans, which I drained and rinsed. Now, I do find that organic beans are a little easier on your stomach, just an FYI. I always know that any recipe that uses green chilies is going to be delicious, so we're going to throw in green chilies. And then just start adding in your seasonings to taste. Chili powder, paprika. I recommend smoked paprika if you have it. Ground cumin, and then, of course, salt and pepper. And then after your seasonings, we just need to add in 1 cup of chicken stock or broth. I had some in my freezer, but obviously just use whatever you've got. So then we're going to give that a stir and then put the lid on. And once again, we are going to put it on low and cook it for, the recipe says 4 to 6 hours, or cook on high 3 to 5 hours, whatever you have time for. I took the lid off and then I'm just checking it to see if the chicken is tender. So you could just shred it right in your slow cooker if you prefer. I think it's easier to take it out and do it. So I took it out, shredded that up, and then added that back in. I put the lid back on and let it continue to sit on low or warm until it was closer to time for us to eat. Then you're going to add in 2 cups of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. And then you're adding in 2 cups of half and half or heavy cream. I probably used milk. I filmed this a bit ago, so I don't remember. I may have used 2% milk or else half and half. So it doesn't get super thick. If you used heavy cream, I'm sure that would get a little bit thicker than what mine did, but it was still delicious. And, you can save some calories if you go with either milk or half and half. But that is it. I served it with this sourdough bread that I'm going to show you how to make here in just a few minutes. My family really enjoyed this. It was hearty and delicious, but required very little hands-on time to get it on the table. Now, the final recipe that I'm sharing is for this easy sourdough bread. This comes from Hope's Table, and Hope has kindly given me permission to share this recipe, so I will put the recipe in the description below, along with the link to buy her cookbook if you would like to. I love this cookbook. I've made so much from it. So we're starting out with our sourdough starter. We're going to use 2 cups of the unfed sourdough starter. I typically will I was going to say I double this recipe, but I don't double this recipe. This makes 2 loaves, so my mixer would not be able to handle if I doubled this. Anyways, we're starting out with our 2 cups of unfed sourdough starter, 1 cup of water, a half a cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of butter that's been melted, 2 tablespoons of honey, and then 5 to 5.5 cups of unbleached white flour. I do use the high gluten bread flour. That's what I prefer to use, but this does not specify you have to do that. So I'm guessing you could just do all-purpose flour and that would be fine. We go ahead and we mix that up with the dough hook. I do it in my KitchenAid here, and I will tell you, this takes my KitchenAid to the max. So just be careful, especially if you have a newer model KitchenAid. I've heard that they do not handle things as well. So just be careful. I just keep stopping my mixer and just checking on it to make sure I'm not overworking it. So we knead that for 3 minutes, and then we're going to cover the mixing bowl with a cloth and let the dough rest for 30 minutes. After we uncover the dough, we're going to add in 2.5 teaspoons of salt. Now there's some science to that, I guess, why you let your dough rest and then you add in the salt. I don't know what the science is, but you could Google it if you're curious. Anyways, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to knead that for 5 minutes more. After that is kneaded for the additional 5 minutes, we're going to place the dough in a large greased bowl. And then we're going to cover that with either a lid or plastic wrap and let it rise for 4 hours. I kind of try to tuck it into a pretty neat little ball, get it all coated in the grease that I sprayed the bowl with, and then cover it and let it sit somewhere. If my kitchen's pretty warm, I'll just leave it on top of the stove like this. If it's cool, then I'll stick it inside my oven with my light on. So after it has been rising for 4 hours, we're going to go ahead and uncover it. And now it's time to shape it into our individual loaves. So this dough is super easy to work with. It's kind of really fun to play with. It's just very soft and easy to work with. I'm going to put this on a lightly floured countertop, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide it into 2 loaves. Now, you could absolutely pull out a kitchen scale. In fact, it'd be a really good idea to do that. I didn't choose to do that on this day, so you're going to see that my loaves did not finish baking at the same time because they were not the same size. So if you want to take the time to do that extra step, it'll save you a little bit of time. Anyways, I go ahead and I flatten that out into a rectangle. And then I just basically roll it up pretty tightly into a loaf. I like to put my loaf pan right beside of where I'm working so I can kind of get an idea of the size of my bread loaf that I'm going to toss into my pan. So my pans are already greased, and I'm going to go ahead and just put that loaf inside of there. It is nothing fancy. It is not perfect, but it's going to be delicious, so it doesn't matter. All right, so second loaf, same as the first. Do the exact same thing, put it in there. Now, the recipe says to put these in a large plastic bag, securing the ends. I did not have plastic bags, so I just went ahead and used plastic wrap again. I have since found the plastic bags that you can use for bread, so next time I make this, I will get to use that. But plastic wrap works just fine too. So after these have risen, and this takes about another 4 or so hours to get these to rise up in the loaf pan, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to score the top. I will tell you, for me, the absolute hardest thing about making sourdough is scoring the loaves. I don't know why, I just struggle with it, and they end up not looking fancy, but they're still delicious. So after we've scored the loaves, we're baking them at 375 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes, or until the center registers 195 degrees. I do pull out my thermometer and I do measure the internal temperature just so I make sure they are fully done. When I pull the loaves out of the oven, I do like to put butter all over the tops of them, just kind of softens that crust and makes it really delicious. As you can see, I'm checking the temperature on the second loaf because, again, they were not the same size, so they baked at took different times to bake. But the second one is done, and I'm going to go ahead and put some butter on that, melt some butter on there, and it is going to be just so incredibly delicious. You let these cool on baking racks. They recommend you freeze one loaf for later in the week, but I'm going to tell you this never lasts long enough for me to freeze any of it. Now, they always say you should let bread cool completely before you slice it. I always slice it when it's still warm because there's nothing as delicious as warm, fresh, homemade bread. But we had this with that corn chowder. We absolutely loved it. So thank you again to Hope for letting me share this recipe with you guys. And thank you again for watching This McCrazy Wife. I will see you next time.